Hi everybody, a lot of new faces, huh? A lot of new staff here. So, everybody knows inspectors need to have that stubborn streak and that single-mindedness to get to point B with everything happening around you. Legendary. I've seen some guys with dogged determination before, but legendary. When he took his show on the road from fire escapes in Boston to changing the way fire marshals nationally are viewing fire escapes. He's moved a big chunk of his operation to California. Every time I call him, I'm in Oregon, I'm in New Jersey, I'm in Florida, I'm in Utah. He's been absolutely everywhere, teaching the fire marshals and the guys that have been signing off on this stuff for years, the error of their ways, and with amazing results. He's single-handedly changed code, state after state after state. Massachusetts, we're very, very slow on the uptake, even though we've had a law on the books for a long, long time. It's stunning to me how in Massachusetts you would buy a car in a heartbeat from California because it's got no rust, right? You want a '67 Mustang? California car. Woohoo, right? Once a year they got to inspect them there. There's no rust. You got to inspect them once a year in LA and then in California. Every 5 years in Massachusetts. Try and sell your Massachusetts Mustang in California. Right? So all of these things, these kind of crazy discrepancies, these silly views of how these things happen and all these differences nationally, it just kind of takes the bull by the horns and grinds it to where it needs to be. I love you. You're an example to us all. So that said, Cisco Menses from Fire Escape Services, one kind of fine guy.
Thank you for that great introduction. And a lot of it that you mentioned before was just that fire escapes, I call them the term, but the bastard child of egress. You know everything about a building, smoke detectors, you know everything about the windows, lead paint, you know everything. But the last thing anybody and everybody has ever touched in over 75 years has been the fire escape. You walk into a building, as an example, you walk into a building that somebody removed the rear staircase on the inside just to expand their closets, and you'll shut that building down like that. Fire department's there, building department's there. You take that same building and you put a fire escape on the outside and all the treads are missing on it, and they'll give that guy 30 days, 60 days, 90 days to fix it. It's the same second means of egress, but if you put it inside, everybody treats it with kid gloves and everybody gets in an uproar because, but as soon as you take that bastard child of egress and you stick it outside, out of sight, out of mind, but the code is there. Because every apartment needs two means of egress. An interior staircase, which is usually when you walk in the building, and then some form of exterior staircase. Now, exterior staircases in a lot of these buildings came because the buildings were modified in their past. So a lot of these beautiful 2.5-story homes that are now 2 families, 3 families, in some rare cases, 5 families, the only answer to them was a fire escape on the back. Okay? And that's the only way they could satisfy this building being modified into so many apartments is because they had a fire escape literally out every little window. A couple of things you're going to go right off the bat. No fire escapes out of bathroom windows. No fire escapes out of usually kitchen windows. All fire escapes must go out of a bedroom because the only place you're going to need it in order to get out of a fire is at night when you're sleeping and it's out of a bedroom window. So what we've done, and again, this all happened, I'll show you, I'll tell you what we covered. And we did it from Boston all the way to Seattle, Texas. Fire Escape Academy is a free website. It's on YouTube. So you go to YouTube and you're going to see Fire Escape Academy is, every seminar we've done is now free online. So this class is actually getting recorded as we speak, and it's going to be free online. So in case you forget anything, you fall asleep because of the beautiful coffee and donuts that we have here, you can always do a refresher course. Future people that are going to be training, you just have to watch this. And if not this one, they can watch several. There's all kinds that we've done in Houston, Seattle, LA, and we just teach the same exact thing. So the first thing that this really took a spin. Does everybody remember the Station 9 fire? Yep. The Station 9 fire, we got a call from Channel 7. Hank Philippi Ryan, anybody ever met Hank Philippi Ryan? And she wanted to do a class on a story, 1 minute piece on fire escape to say, hey, in case of a fire, you can get out and use a fire escape. And once I told her that I've been in this business inspecting everything from Harvard University to Harvey, somebody else who owns one property, and I said, on average, every time, everything I inspect nationwide, everything, 75% of it fails the inspection. Of that, 25 to 50% has a dangling tread or pulling away from the building. Everything. So with that, she didn't believe me, so I took her down here to the theater district, and I gave her a 15-minute class, which I'm going to give you guys a lot longer than that today, and how to inspect fire escapes. Not to get on them, but just to use her eyeball and see standard things. Broken treads, rust in a connection, and I taught her how to look for things that are dangling, truck hits. And so her 1-minute piece turned into this. Sorry that I can't make it any bigger because it's not glitching, so hopefully this makes sense for you.
The smoke, the flames, and the frightened faces, all in a firefighter's line of duty. But Chief William Hitchcock remembers the night it wasn't the fire that almost stopped him, but the fire escape that broke underneath him.
Well, the railing just came away from the building.
And our investigation found across Massachusetts more unsafe fire escapes, rusty, deteriorating, crumbling, broken. And what state officials didn't know, the system they set up to keep fire escapes safe is also falling apart.
The potential ramifications are disastrous.
So let's look at this one. This expert ironworker is licensed to build, maintain, and inspect fire escapes. So then over here, for months, we examined dozens of them with alarming results.
Looking at this today, would this pass inspection?
No.
In dormitories, at theaters, at homes, at apartment buildings.
Rust is actually eating away the metal of the fire escape.
Right.
And the bottom line?
It'll get weak and then eventually it'll fall.
This one has rotted connections. This one missing bolts, twisted metal.
Would the stairs come down?
No, never come down.
This one a broken tread.
So how dangerous is it for the people inside this building?
This fire escape is definitely going to put somebody either in the hospital or it's going to put somebody in the cemetery.
Fire escapes are so critical. The state building code requires they be certified for structural adequacy and safety every 5 years. But our investigation found that safeguard is simply being ignored. Here's proof. We chose fire escapes at random in Boston, Somerville, Cambridge, Worcester, and here in Quincy. We checked building department files
But there's no fire escape certification.
to see if building owners had submitted their mandatory inspection reports.
There's no certification of this one either.
Bottom line, not one we checked in Quincy had been certified as safe. And the Director of Inspectional Services admitted because of staffing shortages, the city has no idea how many other fire escape owners are breaking the rules.
And as a result, do you know how many fire escapes in your city are safe or not?
Well, I don't know.
In Worcester, not one we checked was certified. In Somerville,
No,
4 more fire escapes,
did it fall through the cracks? Yeah.
not one up-to-date certification. And again, no system for keeping track.
How can they get away?
I guess that the shortest answer of all is because we don't have the resources to sit here and follow up on these things.
If structural deficiencies are reported, local building inspectors can actually evacuate residents until repairs are made.
Would you talk to us on camera about this?
No, but when we surveyed 24 more communities, most admitted they had no idea how many fire escapes were certified. In Taunton, inspectors told us they haven't seen a certification in 25 years. Northampton officials said it's a cold day in hell when that happens. In Cambridge, too, not one of our test buildings was certified, and the official in charge would not come out to discuss it. In Boston, where there are more than 8,000 fire escapes, again, according to inspectional services, not one we checked was certified. Officials know they are required to enforce the building code, but they admit they don't always know if owners are breaking the law.
The building code is being ignored.
Right, but it's difficult to write a violation. We don't have knowledge of something like that.
But state officials say for a critical issue like this, communities should know. And they warn the Massachusetts building code is not optional.
Does it worry you that these fire escapes are not being certified?
This is an important issue and should not be ignored.
That's because after the smoke and flames begin, it'll be too late to learn you've got no way out.
I can't stress enough, Hank, that these things have to be maintained and someone's got to be watching.
As a result of our investigation, state officials will now issue an alert to local inspectors. Meanwhile, if there's a fire escape on your home or office, You can contact your local building department to make sure it's properly certified. In the newsroom, I'm Hank Philippi Wright.
So, if you have a management company, an owner that is not understanding that why you're asking for something that he's never had to deal with in 25 years, would this be something that you could probably send him as a little snippet and say, here, watch this first, then call me. Just looking for my little remotes. A little clicker button. Might have put it down. I can't click along with this thing. No, I think I put it.
It didn't look like a donut, did it?
Oh, I think I know what it is. No, Great. So, with that, imagine right now. To make it easy, you know what Boston did immediately right after this? They put they have a checklist in Boston to immediately address the situation. Right now, you pull any permit in Boston, whether it be electrical, plumbing, whatever. In order to close the permit, you need to have a current certificate. Are they actively looking at every city, all the 8,500? No. Are they doing something about it? Yes. Did they make it a checklist item? Yes. Did that help? Yes. So on your checklists, if you can just add one thing, you're not asking anybody to certify their fire escapes. You walk in, you say, you know, you're inspecting a building for lead, for smokes and everything. You say, on your checklist, you ask, do you have an internal or external second means of egress? And they say, oh, it's in the back. You say, great, I just need a copy. You haven't even gone to the back yet. I need a copy of your 5-year certification. If they say, what's that? It's just a no. So your application is incomplete on a checklist item. You haven't even gone back there yet. You don't care whether it's good or bad, which you do. You just want a proper certification, so put it as a checklist item. As soon as you've done that, you don't have to remember this anymore, because you're asking, where's your smoke sign off, right? Because don't they have to have a smoke detector sign off from the fire department? It's just, with your smoke detector sign off means that the alarm goes off. You kind of climb out a window and you step on something, so I need a copy of your certification. And you don't ask them to inspect it, you basically refer them back to the building department. In case there's any noise, you can just send them that little clip. So we can send this little clip, and then he can send that off. Every time you got somebody screaming and yelling about the situation, what's this all about? I haven't done this in 30 years. You let me watch that little Channel 7 news piece, which is not your piece. It's not my piece. It's good old Hank Philippi Wright. She's good. She got the word out. She said that most of them haven't seen it in 25 years. Yes. Very good question. Now, I don't know all the inner workings of insurances and stuff, but this is how you get out of whatever insurance situation you have. You send out a one bulletin to everybody that has a piece of property, and you say, please provide us with the most current certification of your building so that we can put it in our records, or please have one ordered. By you sending that out, you basically have protected yourself because you've asked for it, because they're supposed to have it for your records. And if one hasn't been done, I can order one immediately for you. So that's how you basically get that liability off of your thing. You just send it out in a simple letter saying, hey, I need a copy of what you're supposed to have anyway because the law says you're supposed to have it. And yes, the insurance company is always looking for a loophole. So if you get hurt, let's just get away from fire escapes. I've got a building, 5-story, beautiful elevator, antique, it's beautiful, but I haven't touched it in 17 years. And one day, one of your inspectors gets in there to go look at an apartment, and the cables let go, and a bunch of people get hurt. They never die, they always get hurt. And we'll talk about what live load testing looks like. Will the insurance company pay that claim if that elevator has not been inspected regularly, which I believe is every 2 years? And there is no certificate, not even in the elevator or in the jacket or in the office that they always claim, you know, certificates in the office. Will the insurance company pay that claim? Can't. It says, the law says you must maintain this, and you haven't. 17 years you haven't been maintaining it, so why should we pay this claim? This wasn't an accident, this was negligence. And we have a case where that happened, where a fireman got hurt, 27-year-old fireman uncovered, he got hurt. He sued the owner directly for negligence. It wasn't a work-related accident, even though he was saving a lady and a baby from the 3rd floor. So this is live. This is what we're going to be talking about, live load testing. And we're going to go into a lot of different scenarios, but this is the worst-case scenario. Is fire escapes are made for people to self-evacuate. And then it's made for firemen to get into your building. Everybody's working on this sheet here. Let's talk about where that happened. This is a Boston event, Marlborough Street in the 70s. Herald reporter was there. A fireman was saving a woman and her niece at the last second, as the fireman was waiting for the ladder to come up, because this is up on the 4th floor. So they were using a ladder. The last second, the fire escape pulls away. The fireman grabs the ladder with one hand. The woman tries to grab him. They all fall away. She died, and the niece, her 8-year-old niece, survived. Back then, the law was fire escapes must be maintained at all times. Same code. But after this, the law changed, and it said, now you must prove it every 5 years. So that's the reason why the law changed. Okay? Now, what we can do is, one of the other things that he mentions that I try to change a lot of things nationwide, I'm trying to change the law nationwide so that from now on, all rent checks have to be collected by the landlords through the fire escape. So everybody now just duct tapes their checks to the outside of the windows. Management companies and landlords are now going to have to basically time the fire escapes once a month to go get their checks. You know, if landlords fall and die, it's not going to hit the news. But whenever firemen, babies, and people, tenants fall, then everybody gets yelled at. And it usually starts yelling backwards. They go, oh, there was inspectors here from housing. How did this go? And then it's the building inspector from the town was here. How did this happen? The fire department was just here, and how did this happen? 3 people that didn't see that this was going to happen. So we're going to cover that with you. Let's talk about live load testing. You guys are actually live load testers. Every time you go to a building and you walk out, you're doing what's called a live load test. Because we know what it looks like when you pass. You guys know what it looks like when you fail. So you will never get on the fire escape because you're going to get enough knowledge from today's class and from the stuff that we put on here so that you can have confidence. We're going to make fire escapes safe again. Because let me give you a couple of tidbits. If you're ever in a fire department training room, the gray-haired guys tell the black-haired guys, in case of fire, don't use the fire escape. Now, did anybody ever tell you that from the fire department? They ever come tell you, listen, by the way, just let everybody know that even if the fire escapes, we're never going to use it. That's because they've lost confidence in it. 75 years ago, they stopped repairing them, they stopped testing them, they stopped doing anything to them. So why are you guys walking out there and doing live load tests? So let me tell you that a couple of incidents that occurred. And this is an older picture, but before AC, what was the main way of getting cool in the winter, in the summers? You sleep out on the fire escape. So this is sleeping out on the fire escape. A lot of it was happening in New York City. That's what you do. Put a mattress out there and you sleep out on the fire escape. This happened. This is not Harvard University, but in the Harvard University area, the Harvard Square area, they have a lot of students that came out of their buildings to look at the parade. And a lot of these beautiful old buildings have cast iron railing tops, and they were leaning on it. That cast iron piece fell about 10 feet long, came down, hit the ground, missed a bunch of people, ricocheted, and then hit a bunch of people. All because the top piece of the molding on this beautiful thing. But this is what the parade kind of looked like. One of our guys, his dad in Chicago, 4 years ago, 7th story, fixing a fire escape pretty much like this. This is not him, but this is just doing that. All fell apart, and he fell to his death. Firemen go into your buildings all the time to go pull out people because they, for some reason, can't get out the front door. That happens all the time. So imagine saving a child only to have the fire escape fall away with a fireman that saved the child only to be either hurt or kill the child falling away. And this is the worst case scenario. This is when all hell breaks loose. These guys are supposed to get out of the building. The only thing they got is your fire escape. Other things are going on. Parties. You got some buildings that everybody parks in the back, goes up through the fire escape. It's not a fire escape. It's the main means of egress into every apartment. Because they don't want to go park in the back, walk to the front, then walk up the stairs. They do bikes, the trash, everything is through the back. People are taking pictures. College students. hanging out. It's all live load testing. This happened down here in, between the border of Rhode Island and Massachusetts. I was involved in this case. This is a 5-unit condo. There's a fire escape down there. There was a fire escape here that's down on the ground. And then to the right of it, where I'm taking the picture, is our fire escape, just like this. See all the rust? The guy did his own roof. The owner did his own roof before he sold it all off his condos. Well, what occurred here was one of the condo owners was selling it. So it was the condo owner plus a real estate agent, the buyer and a real estate agent, plus one of the condo trustees. They wanted to go up and look at the roof. The whole thing fell to the ground. Not to the ground, though. They had a nice floor just below them, thank God. They only fell 10 to 12 feet. Everybody was mangled, everybody was scratched, everybody broken bones, nobody died. You grab the phone and do what? Who you call?
What?
That's right. Some call 911, some say call their lawyer to call 911. These things just, then it gets all marred up in issues. So the case I'm on in Iowa, 3 kids were up there watching the fireworks. This is a landlord who owns a majority of the property that houses all the college students. So it's an independent guy that owns a majority. Tons of money this guy had. And all of a sudden, when his guys came and fixed the building, and they took off this bracket, which is this bracket right there, and they took it off the wall on that side that used to have a through bolt and a plate, what did he put it back in? He put it back in with a screw. So it's a 1/2-inch hole with a 1/2-inch light bulb. Guess what happens when the kids are up there watching the fireworks?
Yeah.
So, boom, they landed here and they landed on the ground. This is all their blood. 2 guys and a girl, maimed various ways. So their college career got cut short. This is us at the site, looking at evidence. All this was in a field. 8 blocks away. And now this is us doing the investigation, plus a lot of lawyers all around there. But we found not only the bracket, but then we found bolts that matched. So even though evidence was not being destroyed, it was being used, we were able to find a lot of missing pieces. So lawyers get very happy with this stuff. So we'll talk about it. The guy put it back the next day. The problem was, the guy who put it in had Joe Landscaper put it back in, because not only did they through bolt it back in, but then they put a leg to it, right into the asphalt shingles. The corner put a couple of legs here right into the asphalt shingles, no pressure treated wood. And even on the corner where it was kind of tied in, there was a hole there for them to just put a screw back in. They didn't put it. I was able to videotape myself lifting the bottom, walking to the left 2 to 3 feet, then bringing it back and dropping it. So it hasn't settled yet, but it's about to settle very shortly because of all the information. In Boston, Beacon Hill, this see the missing rail that's up there? This happened to a girl, 26 years old, and her and her boyfriend. The boyfriend has an apartment on the right side that leads to another because it's a hill. His window goes right to somebody else's roof that has a roof deck. So when you're 26 years old, 3 in the morning, drinking and having a good time, where do you go having the last drink? Then all of a sudden the phone rings, and who's going to get it? The guy who lives there knows the way back, or the girlfriend says, I'll get it.
That's right across the street from both the Salt and Stall and Ashburn
Yeah,
Place.
yeah.
I know this thing.
And she fell 5
Right
stories to
across
her
from all
death.
the regulars.
She died.
Is that why the Jake threw the little boy last week that was on Ellen? He didn't trust them. They know better. He actually threw the little boy into the arms of the grandmother. Is that how bad the situation is?
Fire escapes? It's one of those that it's got 75% of everything I see doesn't pass. 25 to 50% of it has life safety issues. So the answer is more yes than no.
They'd rather throw a child out.
Oh yeah.
Than use a fire escape.
There's just no confidence. That's why we do this class nationwide. Our reason is for that. But there's a way to change it. A lot of it is, it's not that it's not the first thing in your mind. These guys are just overloaded. They got a lot of things on their mind. But as soon as you make things checklist, as soon as you add something to a checklist here, a lot of them don't have to remember it anymore. You know, you're asking for a bunch of things. I need a lead inspection certificate. I need a copy of the certificate from the fire department. You know, from the smokes. I mean, there's all these things you ask for. It's just something you add to your list, and at the very bottom it says what's your means of egress. Is it internal or external? Because if it's too internal, you don't do anything. It's inspected by somebody else. The fire department and the building department inspect internal staircases. But as soon as the guy says, I got an external one, you say, boom, I need a copy of certificate. You're not ordering inspections. You're supposed to already be there. And as a matter of fact, if you want to send out to all your departments, just ask all your departments to send everybody out there that has external means of egress. We need a copy for our files. We need copies of all your current certifications. That blast will, just so that you can eliminate your liability. You asked for it today. You put a line in the sand from all the authorities out there. They have to get that out to all the tenants. Just say, please provide us with the most current. Now, who inspects fire escapes, right? Everybody well, all 50 states, structural engineers. In some states, civil engineers and structural engineers. And the code here is structural engineers and or others acceptable to the building official. Okay? Some states allow architects. This state doesn't say that they allow architects, but every now and then you will see an architect inspecting a fire escape. Some people claim city officials inspect fire escapes. So they think the city official who walked by there last week certified the fire escape. They think you guys did your inspection and you certified the fire escape. They think that the fire department walking through had certified the fire escape. Say no, it's an independent inspection that needs to be done. And then there's fire escape inspectors. There's only two I'll show you in the form I sent you, there's only 2 licenses in the entire country. One's out of Boston, which I hold, and one's out of LA, which I hold. In Boston, say again?
No, go ahead.
There's only, no other states have, no other states have any licenses. So there's nobody out there really looking at fire escape. They're really relying on the engineers to do a lot of this, right? But in Boston, if you do window guards and railings, and you occasionally sell an I-beam, all of a sudden now you can sign off on a fire escape in Boston. You can take that same license and sometimes go north with it or go south with it, and some city official will allow a G3 license to sign off on a fire escape. The only problem that occurs there is that if you're a vendor, it's like an electrician being able to sign off on his own electrical. And because there's 2 permits, a permit that needs to be pulled. There's a repair permit and there's a paint permit. Does a paint ever need a permit? If you're going to paint something, you ever need to pull a paint permit? No. If you're painting something, they don't want a permit. So guess what every fire escape in Massachusetts gets repaired under? Paint. So I never have to pull a permit on a paint permit. I just show up and I start fixing it. When they show up, they say, hey, what are you doing? Oh, I'm painting the fire escape and I'm changing a couple of bolts. So you have a G3 license in your pocket. You're the vendor fixing the thing. There's no permit pulled so that, the city official. So Joe Landscaper is now fixing fire escapes with paint. Billy Bob, electrical guys fixing fire escapes with paint. Ernie the welder is fixing fire escapes with paint. And guess who's watching their work? And then at the end, they just need this little document that says, I fixed your fire escape, especially in Boston. So guess what happens with a lot of these jobs that have rust in the connections, and you spend thousands of dollars. And here's the example: 5-story fire escape, full metal stairs with a cantilever to the ground. 50% of it is rotten with treads, 100% connection rust everywhere. 50 to 75%, so a total refurbishment. Plus, rebalancing the cantilever with a release arm. And that owner just got, whether it be in Boston or Lowell, he just got a scrape and paint violation. Because that's the other mistake that they've made, and that's why we do these classes. Building inspectors are now writing repair, paint, test. They're not writing any more scrape and paint. Because now, the old landlord got a scrape and paint violation in his hands. So who's he called first? Joe the painter. Joe the painter comes out and looks at this 5-story building full of stairs with a cantilever to the ground and says, how much you charge me to paint this fire escape? He goes, he walks up and down and says, I can paint this thing for $2 grand. By the way, you got a couple of loose treads up there that you should get. He goes, no problem, I'll have the ironworker look at it. The ironworker comes in and says, hey, I need you to fix this fire escape because I have a guy that's going to paint it. As soon as you fix those couple of treads, the guy goes, okay, I'll take a look at it. He rolls up, he comes back down and says, you got a lot more problems than just those 2 treads. And by the way, I can paint it too. I say, great. So fix what you need to fix, and then tell me how much you want to paint. The guy, oh, I can repair this whole fire escape correctly, remove all the rust, all the connections, and paint it under the new EPA guidelines, which we're also going to talk about today, for 20 grand. Okay? So we got the owner with a violation that he got from the city official, scrape and paint it, and you got 2 quotes. 2 grand to scrape and paint it, which will satisfy what this thing just said. And this other guy, they give him 20 grand to bid that says, repair, scrape and paint it. Who do you think has been winning for 75 years?
Paint the roof.
Okay? So the guy shows up with a bucket of paint and silicone. Paint paints everything that's rusty. Silicone covers everything that looks like rust. If there's a big gap, just fill it with silicone. Can't see it unless you poke and prod. We're going to talk about original hardware and how when you look up a fire escape, all you have to look for, and we'll teach you that, is original hardware. So there's a little bit of an abuse happening. Boston will let you sign off on all their fire escapes with the G3 license. Chelsea doesn't accept it. Arlington doesn't accept the G3 license. They want a structural engineer. Understand? So the main thing you have to make sure that your fire escapes, when they're getting inspected, and we're going to cover all that, is who's doing the inspecting and the oversight, and who's doing the repairing, to make sure it's legit and there was a permit pulled. You don't have to deal with that because, again, you're just looking for that certificate. But once you get the certificate or a copy of it, you still have one more thing to say, whether or not you're going to accept it. Because if you see things in there that somebody just bought a piece of paper, you can reject that piece of paper. Say, hey, I got a little training, and thanks for the piece of paper, and I'll show you that in a little bit. But, and I'll use this as an example. Right off the bat, you guys haven't even been trained on fire escapes yet, but this is one of the fire escapes in the back of one of your buildings, 5-story. Pass or fail. Right? And this is the same fire escape, right? Pass or fail. Thank God it's white. The best fire escapes you can ever look at is beige and white ones. Pass or fail. Okay? So, I got a letter from a secretary who got a letter from a structural engineer. And guess what he said?
It's okay.
It's okay. You need to paint it, and there's 2 treads you need to fix. This is the letter from a structural engineer. And when you read the 4 things he wants, there's a bend platform that he needs you to bend the flat, fix 1 tread that fell on the floor, and scrape and paint it. And I'll certify it. That's it. So here's a structural engineer letter. It's called an opinion letter. Because a lot of times in the disclaimers down here, guess what he disclaims? Anything I didn't see, anything I didn't touch, anything I couldn't find, it's not my issue. But when I drove by in my car, I kind of saw these things from my car window. That's called a drive-by, fly-by. These are all the things I found. Total rust, huge rust, and we failed the fire escape. But only because the secretary said, I don't think this guy knows what he's talking about. So that's the kind of power you have also, that once you get a copy of a certificate, it's just like you getting somebody that says, yeah, I painted, or I've been de-leaded, or I've been this, and you guys look, I know what de-leaded houses look like. I know what safe windows look like. I know what a good furnace looks like. You guys have all this. The knowledge you're going to get today is just that also. The other license out there is California. Now this is the sheet you use in California to inspect everything that's in fire protection. So what we did is we found that there was no confidence test specific to fire escapes in the nation, so we made one. We made one that basically asks legitimate questions to the inspector, which are statements, yes, no questions. No longer do you have an opinion letter. And that's what the only 3 types of inspection you had. Opinions, and the second one is load tests. When's the last time anybody here witnessed a load test? So what we've done is we have 3 letters, that 3 opinions that you get out there, or 3 types of questions you get to the building inspector. You wrote a violation to my client. You want an opinion letter with a ton of disclaimers? You want a refurbished fire escape, which is certified fire escape. Means we not only fixed what we could see, but everything we couldn't see, we investigated, and we can tell you that it's either been verified or nullified or duplicated. Or do you want a live load test? Because the code here in Massachusetts lets you load test fire escapes, even though it never happens. So we're going to talk to you about the code. So with that, we designed the confidence test. This confidence test is one that is pretty simple. It just, it has all the information about the client in the beginning, with a ton of disclaimers. And then it has yes, no questions that are general questions and structural questions. And they're not like, what's your opinion? It's like, did you remove 100% of the rust, Mr. Engineer? Did you notice, did you in your oversight make sure that 100% of the rust was removed of all the connections? Did you verify the connection into the wall? Did you investigate or did you duplicate that unknown, which was cheaper to the client? That's what they did here. So with that, believe it or not, we got this, we teach a class through Kane University. We teach a 6-hour continuing ed course on this stuff. I have to slow it down. There's a lot of singing and dancing. I bring belly dancers through, but otherwise, 6 hours we teach this class. And nationwide, the one that first grabbed this, believe it or not, is Seattle, Washington. You go to seattle.org, you go to their fire prevention page, and they have confidence tests there for sprinklers, for smokes, for everything, including our confidence test. They copied all the questions out of our confidence test and made a confidence test. So did Tacoma. In New Jersey, a lot of the cities down there are using our confidence test. A lot of the cities in Texas, New York. Now, a lot of these should be state law, but guess what happens when you try to work things from the top down? It's like pushing molasses in the winter up a hill. But what we've done in the grassroots level is we've worked all around the country in little spots here. We're now in Portland, Oregon. LA is looking at our confidence test now. Chicago, we've been everywhere with this. And all we do is we just plant the seed and let it grow, and hopefully nobody pulls it up. But it just makes common sense that instead of you getting an opinion letter from an engineer, you get this letter that he has to sign, and he has to answer these yes/no questions. And then he has to sign it, and guess what happens? When he signs this statement, that he's watched it, he's looked at it, and that he guarantees it with no disclaimers. He becomes liable.
He assumes.
He assumes it, which he's not doing when he's giving you an opinion letter today. So, and if he doesn't want to do this, you know what the only other option you have for a fire escape? Is you got to load test it. Because as soon as you load test it, guess who's liable? No one. You just load tested it. It can fall the next day. But it passed the load test yesterday. That's the only options you have. Load test or certified repaired fire escape. And that's what these tests, this confidence test here, will give you a certified repair. And I'll go into detail as to exactly what it is. In questions, these are general, which is about the doors, how you get out, do the windows all operate, no trash, no ACs in the window. That's these questions, and these are all the structural questions, including that the cantilevers, you know, when released, drop. I'm going to go over all that stuff today. Here's the great thing, Tacoma copied our test, and this is what their test looks like. So you go to tacoma.org, go to their page, and you can download. So if you don't want to use my test, and you want a nationally recognized test, go to seattle.org or tacoma.org and steal their test. Change your name at the top. These come in PDF and Word document. And all you do is you take their stuff off the top, put your name in there for the housing authority thing, and there's a industry standard confidence test. And if you get any noise from a building inspector or from an engineer, you say, you don't have to use my form that I pulled off the internet. What you can do is answer the questions on your letterhead. So if Mr. Engineer is so proud about his letterhead, you say, okay, these questions are all numbered. Just can you answer each and every question on your letterhead and throw this form away? It's an industry standard form. By the way, as of spring, we're already starting what's called the National Fire Escape Association for this very reason. Because God forbid some kid from Boston is telling everybody how to do their work. They won't accept it because it's either tainted with the word fire escape services or it's tainted because of fire escape engineers. So we're starting the National Fire Escape Association. So you'll be able to go on nationalfireescapeassociation.org, and on there will be videos to train you, industry standard documentation. Everybody's form that's out there will be somehow housed in there. Any and all information that we have, including industry standard documentation, will be there. So now you can actually point to an association, and members like you are going to be part of it. Engineers are going to be part of it. Housing inspectors and building inspectors are going to be part of it. So is vendors who are going to be repaired. So now, in order to be part of that association and sort of say I'm an approved member of the NFEA, it basically gives you that credibility that says I follow their standard. And their standard is going to be minimally every fire escape ever fixed nationwide has a 10-year warranty. So regardless of whether they change owners on that building, that fire escape is guaranteed to pass an inspection for the next 10 years after refurbishment. And that'll sort of raise the bar way up here so you don't have to worry about those things, you know, failing every 5. Guaranteed certification for 10. The one thing I liked about Tacoma that they did is they did one more sheet, and that was a yearly. So we now incorporated the yearly, and this is for the owners. The owners or the management companies must walk their fire escapes once a year. And they have 3 questions. Are the bolts looking good? The paint looks good? And the windows still open up towards the fire escape? It's pretty easy, right? And they sign at the bottom saying, yeah, I was there. And you can do this during your yearly inspections, during the fire yearly inspection, or during the building inspector's yearly inspection. But you want a copy of this yearly that says that the owner or the management company has looked at it and removed any trash, any things that are on the fire escape. So, simple questionnaire. This is what tags look like in Seattle. Not only in Seattle because of our class, and guess why we got pulled out to Seattle? Because they felt like being proactive, or because 3 guys fell from the 3rd floor while having a smoke?
Proactive.
So with that, we got pulled out there, and they went from, I consider, dead last, because there was an ability there for you to self-inspect your own fire escape, and literally write a letter to the city official saying, I've looked at my fire escape, it looks pretty good. Now, every fire escape in Seattle, and they're in their third year now with this, must have a tag. A white tag, and theirs is monstrous. It's 19 inches by 11 inches, plastic, 7 to 10 feet, permanently affixed to the fire escape, and every fire escape must have a tag. If it's not white, it's got to have a yellow or a red. Yellow means it's under repair, red means it's got life safety issues, and usually the building is either under watch or it's emptied. You know, the building's been emptied. But imagine now what this means for them. They sent out this letter to everybody in the city. You must have a tag on your fire escape. So imagine a fireman in the middle of the night getting to a fire escape, and they've been hearing the word, don't get on a fire escape. But now that Seattle has a new law, they say if it's got a white tag on it, get on it. Because it's got a white tag. And on the tag, it tells you not only when it was inspected, when the next inspection date is. So you don't have to have somebody from the office say, was this thing certified? It's an immediate knowledge that they have so they can just get on it safely. If you have a yellow tag on your fire escape, and it says, fire escape has deficiencies, and you're paying rent to your landlord, what can happen if all of a sudden you find that you have a fire escape outside your window that keeps saying it has deficiencies and never gets to one that says, I have no deficiencies? They stop holding rent, and that's going to help push this thing along. So, and if it's got a red that says fire escape is unsafe, it's out of service, you know. So there's a little bit of an ability for the tenants to assist in pushing this thing along. Okay? So this is what they do. But our tags are, and we use this on every inspection we do, we make our tag 8.5 by 1. It's easy to produce on a photocopier. Yes?
So if the fire department responds to a fire and they get there and they see one of these red and yellow tags on the back, they just not use the fire.
They're going to do what they always do anyway. They never get on them anyway. They're just like, hey, I get on this thing, then they grab a ladder. But here's the worst part.
Just put a ladder up to the window, and they'll try and get people head first down that ladder before they ever get on the fire escape. It's like marching orders for firemen. Don't get on the fire escape.
Don't get on the fire escape. That's why tagging, if we can get Boston to tag every fire escape, regardless of its condition, the first people that's going to help is the firemen. Make that instantaneous decision. A lot of people realize you don't die in a fire because of the fire. You die in a fire because of the smoke, which is usually the first 2 to 5 minutes. You can't get out anyway because the smoke got you first. So if all of a sudden a fireman shows up at your fire and he needs to get to your window and crack it open and pull your kids out, but all of a sudden he needs to take an extra 2 minutes to get to his truck, pull out a very good ladder that he's going to use to go crack your window and get your kids out, doesn't matter anymore. 2 to 5 minutes, it doesn't matter anymore to anybody. So that's what they've done. This is a Route 9. This is a detention center for 17-year-olds and above, juveniles. And look at all the rust. Now, if the sentence didn't get you, trying to get out of the fire escape is going to get you. And this is into an open courtyard in the middle of the thing, secured. But this is how the kids would get out of the building. This is how much rust we found. This right here is, because of all the court cases we've been on, to grow a 1/4 inch of rust in any connection takes 25 years. To grow 1/2 inch of rust, it's over 50 years. How many years of rust we got growing there, right? This is a school down in New Jersey. Look how much rust is there, okay? Now, the most important thing is, when I say that you're live load testing, don't ever get on these fire escapes and walk up them, or walk down them, because you realize the fact that you walked it, you're kind of giving an opinion on the fire escape that it's okay to continue using. All you need to do is just look out any window, open any door, and you can literally step out. We'll teach you what to look for. As soon as you step out the window, I have some videos here so we don't have to go out in the rain to look at fire escapes. But here's what you're worried about. If you're going up the fire escape, you have a chance, because when we go up a fire escape, we have a 3-pound hammer. And we ping the hammer. Not only do we do a visual observation for our protection, the hammer test is not really for the fire escape. The hammer test is really for our safety, whether or not we can step on that tread. So when it's the ping-pong test, as we ping it and it rings, it's a good connection. Even if it has rust in it, it's still nice and tight. But when it pongs, that means it's got a lot of rust in it. and this is what happens, because we're going up. We can stop our inspection at any time. But if you're one of those people that go to the third floor and start walking down the fire escape, this is what you're facing. 3-pound hammer.
Okay, I think that's it. You want to stay down?
Okay, so he had to stop because as he was going up, all the treads had that much rust in it. Now, if you're coming down, a 3-pound hammer is the equivalent of your body weight coming down on one side, and you're stomping on that tread going down. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you're putting 200 pounds of force on a tread on one side, and if it's all rust and the bolts are gone, you go through it. Now, here's how you're going to go through it.
Suddenly, too.
You go down suddenly.
It took a few whacks to break. I had one 5 stories up and Julio break underfoot, and exactly just like you said, put my foot on it and it broke. There was
Right.
no stop.
And if you don't hold on, what happens is your body's still moving forward.
Terrifying.
You actually snap your knee forward. Think you'll ever come back to work? If you snap your knee forward? Now, if you're going up the stairs and you fall through and you fall backwards, the knee is going in the correct direction. You'll scrape, you'll break it, you'll twist it, we'll do something, you'll be back to work. But if you're going down a set of stairs and the thing goes and your leg is jammed in there and your body weight is still going forward, you will snap the knee or you'll snap. One of the bones has to give because there's too much body weight going forward and you got it locked into a piece that vice grip your leg. It's going to snap your knee, snap your bone, or snap your shin. Cantilevers. Okay? Let's talk about what you see out there. A lot of people don't realize how these things are built. And I'm going to talk to you about what their purpose is. But see these boxes back here? In the Midwest and up to California, they're all single. They're all on one side. In the East Coast, a lot of them have the double. The back box is filled with trash. Leftover iron, junk iron, rivets, anything you can sweep off the floor. They'll even pour concrete in there to add the weight that they need. And then 50 to 75 years ago, they never sealed it. So what happens when it rains and it rains and it rains and it rains and it goes into that box? Iron that's a 1/4 inch thick will grow to almost 1 inch of rust and absorb that much weight over time. So a lot of times what happens to these fire escapes is as water gets in there, it starts to point into the sky. It'll start slowly like this, but then eventually it'll look like this. Now, what happens is when you walk by it as a building inspector, what's the first thing you're going to write? If you see this thing pointing into the sky.
Yeah, check your weight.
Check your weight, you got a violation. Now, to repair this whole thing and put a release arm on it, a couple of grand, right? Or do I go to Home Depot and get a chain? And I wrap a chain back here, and I pull it, put a chain back in, I pull it and I tie it up over there and I make it horizontal. What happens then? Any violation?
Yeah, yeah, it doesn't work.
No, I put a chain on there. Because the only violation I have is not from a tenant. My violation is going to come from a building inspector. But if the thing isn't pointing to the sky and I somehow pulled it up and I made it horizontal, no violation.
But the chain is visible.
There's tons of chains. I'm going to talk about. Next time you see any fire escape with a chain, it's out of balance. So that means to you that you see any chain on any fire escape, it's out of balance. And let me explain why. A 150-pound woman, 50-pound child, dragging, they come down the set of stairs. Let's take this one, they come down and there's supposed to be a release arm here. But she goes down the set of stairs, and let's say it has the chain, and she steps out on the first 2 or 3 steps, dragging the child behind her. Will the fire escape go down if it's out of balance? She goes 3 to 5 steps up, dragging the child. Usually by then, 5+ treads, she's already counteracted the balance. Her and her child equals 200 pounds. So this thing, it's supposed to drop 2 to 3 feet per second when you release it. Does it drop 2 to 3 feet per second or 5 to 10 feet per second? So 5 to 10, it goes down, slams the ground, and it's a very violent event. What happens to the woman and the child? Well, they either get thrown, and minimally they're going to get scared. So let's say it hits the ground, she screams and screeches, and she holds on, and she's able to hold on. The child starts screaming and crying. But the thing is down. It hit the ground and stayed down. So now she walks down, she gets to the last step, and she steps off. What happens to the child? She's towed. Now these things are supposed to be 12 to 14 feet off the ground so trucks don't hit it. So now where's this child? The mother's on the ground, the child is up how high?
15 feet.
The mother says to what to the child?
Jump.
Jump. Right? The child is up there holding on, screaming. because she just got catapulted and she had to hold on to the catapult. Okay? So the mother's downstairs yelling, there's a fire up above that they just got out of. There's no fireman there yet. So you got a 50-pound child hanging on the end of the thing and it won't come down. The mother says, jump. Now, nobody thinks that a mother would run back into a burning building to repeat the process just to save her child, would she?
I would for my child.
So all of a sudden, she's about to run back into the front of the building or the side of the building, wherever she's going to get to repeat the process. Firemen show up and stop you and say, hey, what are you doing? Oh, my child. No, we'll get it. So the firemen get over there, look up and say what to the child?
Jump.
Jump. That's how. If I don't jump for my mother, I ain't jumping for you. So the fireman runs back to his truck and gets what? No, they get the pole. There's a pole with a hook.
Oh, that's right.
They go get that pole and they grab it and they bring it down. 6 guys show up, firemen show up. So the guy pulls this thing down, brings it all the way down, the steps on it, the child reunites with the mother, they take off. Now, this guy that brought the pole is the captain, the commandant, the guy that runs the whole show. And where's his foot now?
Bottom of the fire escape.
So you got 5 other guys, and there's fire up above him, and there's all crap going on. And what's he doing now to this fire escape? Because if he takes his foot off, what happens?
Bang, right back up.
So now he's stuck. He's like, man. So he goes, hey, who's the low man on the totem pole? Says, Billy, get over here. Put your foot over here. And he puts Billy now stepping on that thing, so he can coordinate the fire control and all that other stuff. But the 6-man team became a 5-man team. And God forbid things are falling, because that Billy, you think Billy's gonna sit there underneath the fire getting ashes on his head?
That's Carlos's job.
So it's things like that. Now watch how violent